What is going on, everybody, and welcome on into episode 247, a celebration episode here tonight on the Garage Beers podcast. We are so excited to have you in with us. We're going to have a party tonight. Tonight is going to be all about partying, celebrating, having a good time because we got a lot to celebrate here on this podcast, and we're going to get into that in just a bit. First of all, let's give a couple shout outs out. Always the Orange and Brown Report, the OBR, is our host. It is who has enough faith in us to say, hey, yeah, Tuesday nights, go hang out with those guys, even though they don't really talk Browns when they don't have to. But make sure you get over to the OBR.com. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you're tuned in to everything the OBR has going on because they are the best Browns coverage site. I know my boys Brad and Pete went a little bit long with the react tonight. I didn't even care. They put on a great show. We have got great shows, even in the off season, going like 6 days a week. So make sure you are tuned into everything great the OBR is doing. Make sure you get over to our page at The Garage Beers on all of the socials and hit follow, including TikTok, which we lost for like 12 hours and then got back in a miraculous fashion. And I won't even go into that conversation, but make sure you're following us on all the socials. Joining you tonight, I am your host, Michael Keefe at Garage Beers Mike, and with me over on the east side of Cleveland, it's Garage Beers Chad Meyer. What's up, Chad?
Mike, I'm glad to see you survived the 12-hour TikTok blackout. I didn't know really what to do with myself. I slept for 7 of it. Did you make it? You made it. Obviously you made it. But what did you do with it?
To be honest with you, I didn't really know when it started or when it ended. I was told when it started and when it ended. And I think I did have to make, I think I knew when it started because I had to make a Cavs video that night. I think that was the night who'd the Cavs play? The Cavs won. They beat Minnesota that night, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I had to make a Cavs video for Minnesota, and I usually will make it on TikTok and then post it everywhere else because TikTok is really easy to edit videos.
Right.
So I knew it was gone that night, and then I think my wife told me the next morning that I came back. And to be honest with you, I just okay, all right, good, glad it's back. Let's move on.
Sweet.
I'm all about getting. Apparently, I've been on something called Owl Talk.
What?
Yeah, it's like people that have owls as pets.
That's in your algorithm right now?
It's all I want. It's all I want. I want an owl as a pet. That's my new thing. Nice. I'm on Owl Talk. Proudly a member.
I wish you would have let me know. I totally would have snagged the barn owl that I saw at the chill out here this weekend.
Man, I wish you would have. There's a video of a lady. I think she's got the owl at the vet, and the owl standing on like a scale, and she just goes up to it and goes, "Can I get a hoo-hoo?" And the owl's just like, "Hoo!" And I was like,
"Oh,
I want that.
Shit, this podcast got super nerdy. But I was 3 whiskey flights in, so I probably would have like at least made an attempt to steal it. I'm not even kidding.
Attaboy.
Fun.
Attaboy.
That's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, man. Listen, we've got a great show. Here's a great question from Sean right off the bat. Just checking. Is Joey good? Yes, Joey's good. Joey will be back next week. From what I understand, Joey put in 85 hours in his day job last week. And tonight, the in-laws are in town, and they are at the Nashville Predators game, and you can't argue with that. So I think between the holidays, he's traveled a ton and all that. Joey is still part of the show. He's still around.
Is he?
Will be back next week. He made that pledge. So unless something weird happens, you will see him.
All right. I'll believe it when I see it.
I know. Listen, we've got an awesome show coming up on episode 247. Obviously, we are going to kick things off with the biggest news. We have covered the Ohio State Buckeyes now for 5 years, which, by the way, we are coming up on 5 years of Garage Beers. And I love that. But we've covered Ohio State for 5 years. Obviously, last night, the Buckeyes take down Notre Dame to win the national championship. We're going to break down that game. And frankly, we're just going to celebrate because it is well-deserved. We're going to talk about an interesting week, I think, for both the Blue Jackets and the Cavaliers. We're going to talk about I think we're going to try to maybe fix Major League Baseball because, holy shit, And we'll get into anything else that might pop up. So you've got a great show ahead of you here on episode 247, but none of it starts before we do our garage beers of the week. So Chad, why don't you start us off, buddy? What are you drinking tonight?
This is coffee. I got coffee here, Mike.
Right.
Because I got less than 2 hours of sleep last night because I was all jacked up on Mountain Dew. So yeah, I need to stay awake. Oh yeah, just kidding. There's Woodford in there too.
Let's go.
So yeah, Woodford and bourbon and coffee for my garage beer tonight. Let's go.
As Chad said in a text message to me not all that long ago, drinking the brown water. And I don't think you want to say that way.
Busting out the brown water.
Yes, I don't think you want to say that way. I don't think you want to do that. Our buddy Gregory H is drinking Keystones and Jaeger. Shout out to Gregory. Hopefully you're not doing electrical work while you are drinking the Keystones and Jaeger, or if you are, hopefully you create a real weird situation for the people that live in the house you're working in. Let us know what you're drinking. Chad.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do.
You what?
I didn't know what else to do tonight. I was sitting there going, to be honest with you, the beer fridge is a little sparse because my fridge in the garage, which is the beer fridge, hit the shits.
Oh,
it just stopped working overnight.
Oh God.
So that is a bummer. Now, luckily, it is 1.7 degrees outside, wind chill of like -30. So the beers are cold. It's fine. But I thought,
if this was July, it'd be a problem.
I thought, man, we got a celebration episode coming tonight.
That's right.
We got a national title that we are celebrating. Think about the Ohio State Buckeyes that we have talked to just this year. But in the tenure of our show, think about Andy Katzenmoyer and Michael Jenkins, and think about Joe Germain, and think about our buddy Tyvis Powell and Brian Browning and Chimdi Chekwa, and think about Anthony Schlegel and think about this year, Archie Griffin, and think about Paul Keels and all these great Buckeyes that we've talked to.
And by the way, to everyone listening, that is all their fault for saying yes. Why would they say yes to us? Who knows? But we're glad they did.
Just a bunch of awesome, really questionable decisions. But I thought, man, how can we do this? How can we do this episode without this? So, Chad, my garage beer of the week this week involves this.
Oh, champagne.
And it involves this bad boy. Hold on a minute while I pop it open, and hopefully it doesn't explode all over the place. Hold on, let me give it a minute. And then I thought, look at this.
No, you know what you got to put it in.
Who the hell needs this?
No, nobody
needs this. Put that thing aside. I'm not going to throw it because it's probably some kind of valuable. This is my garage beer of the week this week.
Let's go.
And that's what we are doing.
Celebrating.
And listen, I'm going to let it just lead us in directly to our first topic of the night, the Ohio State University, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Why am I drinking the champagne tonight? It's because the Ohio State Buckeyes went on a run for the ages.
Woo!
A month and a half ago, or about 2 months ago, really. We were burying the Ohio State Buckeyes. We were digging the grave for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and they go on an all-time great run. Now, listen, I know that's kind of a loaded sentence because it's the only team that's ever had a chance to go on a run like this.
Yep.
But
they
did go on the run. They went on the run. They beat Tennessee. They beat Oregon. They beat Texas. And last night, the Ohio State Buckeyes take down the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and your national champions are the Buckeyes. And I'm drinking champagne to celebrate.
Listen, it's not a false statement because it is the greatest run anybody's ever went on. Sure, nobody else has done it, but that's okay. We hold that record right now. We hold that run right now. Okay? All right? And you discredit it all you want, everybody. Tell me how bad like the 12-team playoff is. The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, the Ohio State Buckeyes are national champions.
How about Gregory with this great story? I met my neighbor outside at 3:00 in the morning this morning before he was leaving to go get on a flight just to talk shit. Let's go, Gregory. Let's go, buddy. Let's go. Let's go.
Did you do a Keystone and a Jaeger in his face?
Just pour it on his head. Enjoy the flight. No, listen, I can't get off of the same thing. I talked about it on my little video. By the way, Chad, cheers to your video. If you didn't watch Chad's national championship recap video last night, like I was excited, right? Like my video was all about excitement. I was pumped. I was excited. Chad, you were A, drunk, and B, you were talking like a mob boss, and it's my favorite video you've ever made.
It was more like a reflection.
Yeah, but it also came across as a little bit of a threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
mix it up with our videos now, man. You got to mix it up a little.
The thing that I can't get over, and I mean this in a good way with this victory for Ohio State, is that when the bracket was released and they showed what this whole thing was going to look like with this 12-team playoff, the only thing that you heard over and over and over again was how unfair it was to Oregon, right? The number one team in the country.
Right.
And they were either going to have to take out Ohio State or Tennessee. Then they were going to have to take out Texas. And then they were going to have to take out Notre Dame or Penn State or Georgia or whoever came out of that side of the bracket, right?
Right.
And so that's what everybody talked about was, man, how unfair is this to Oregon? And maybe that is a fair conversation. It's not maybe. That's definitely a fair conversation. But if you want to know why I'm reveling in this national championship as much as I am, it's because Ohio State did what everybody thought was unfair to Oregon. Ohio State ran through Tennessee, and then they ran through Oregon.
Right.
And then they ran through Texas.
Right.
And then they ran through Notre Dame, and they won every game by double digits, just like we said on this show. Just like I said last week, I think Ohio State's going to win by double digits. Ohio State gets out to that big lead, and then give credit to Notre Dame for fighting. But in the end, it was just too much Ohio State. They were too much for everybody they played. And this is just an incredible run for the Ohio State Buckeyes. This national championship. What I love about the 12-team playoff is that nobody can argue it. Nobody can say anybody else deserved to be there. Nobody can say somebody missed out that should have been there that wasn't. The best 12 teams, as determined by this situation, got in, and Ohio State was far and away the best of the 12.
Everybody got what they wanted. It was decided on the field, right? You can't. We said it before. How many times have we said you could make an argument when it was a 14 playoff. You could make an argument for 5, 6, and 7 to be in the playoff, to have a shot.
Yeah.
12 teams? No, you just can't. The argument gets less and less the more you go below 12. And boy, did it pay off. Yeah, sure, there were ugly games in the first round, but you know what? There was ugly games when it was 4 teams too. So there was really no difference. And it played out beautifully. I mean, obviously it played out beautiful for the Buckeyes because they won the championship. But nobody had a harder road. Nobody had a harder road than the Buckeyes, right? And they had two options when they were looking at that road. They could sulk, they could whine, they could hang their heads, and they could come out and lay an egg against Tennessee. They chose to play. They chose to get pissed off. They chose to rally, and you saw the result of it. And the best part about it is they never lost their edge. They might have not come out with the same intensity as they did against Tennessee, because that was just a level that I haven't seen a Ryan Day coached Buckeye team in the last 4 years.
Tennessee and Oregon, both of them.
Yeah, that was just a level you just didn't see. But they never lost that edge, and that's what propelled them. That is the main ingredient that propelled them to this national championship, dude. And it just, I'm just over the moon. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I should make more mob boss videos next year for Ohio State season. Because I like it. It just feels like it just for you know why I did that, Mike. Why I did that? Because it just kind of felt like Ohio State just felt like the villain in all of this, because people were counting them out. People doubted them. People didn't think they could do it, right? And they were, you guys suck. You're the softest team. You're going to get run over by whoever you play. Nah. We're the bad guy. We've always kind of been the bad guy, everybody outside of Columbus, and we're going to continue to be going into next year.
So, Chad, let's talk about last night's game and let's break this thing down because it was a fascinating game. I think there's a couple things that were really fascinating. One, that first drive by Notre Dame was wild.
It terrified me.
Wild.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It did the opposite. You say it terrified you?
Well,
It
you know
did
what?
the opposite to me, Chad. It did the opposite to me. I sat there and went, okay. Listen, I think, first of all, I thought it was weird that Ohio State deferred, right? Because Ohio State has made it so abundantly clear that they value getting off to hot starts. And actually, in the pregame interview, Ryan Day said, got to get off to a hot start, got to get off to a fast start. So when they won the coin toss and they deferred, I went, that's weird. But Notre Dame takes 10 minutes off the clock, and they drive down the field in terms of like 4-yard play, 3-yard play, 4-yard play, 5-yard play. But the reason I felt like I was sitting there back watching it going, okay, good for you. Glad you did that. Happy for your fans. Riley Leonard runs the ball 9 times on that drive.
Uh-huh.
And then he runs off the field, immediately barfs in a garbage can.
Yeah.
Takes oxygen. And he, for the rest of the game, and this is not taking anything away. I think Notre Dame showed incredible fight.
Right.
But for the rest of the game, Riley Leonard looked like he didn't want to be out there at all. He looked like that first drive took everything out of him. And the rest of the game, you could see it in his eyes. He was like, oh, shit, I got to go. Like, Notre Dame would get a stop in the second half, and like they would pan to Riley Leonard on camera, and he'd be like, ugh. All right, we're going back
like
out
shit.
there. Like,
what do you want? When he feels sick, he's not going to, I mean, if he's sick, no one's going to be that motivated if they're
not
feeling
just sick. It's exhausted. He was exhausted after
right,
one,
because
after one
he
drive.
was sick.
Done. So, like, I thought that drive was great. I thought, wow, what a statement Notre Dame makes there. And then I went, watch Ohio State respond in about 3 minutes, which they did. And I was like, and how devastating is that, right? If you're Notre Dame, your quarterback's already exhausted. You went on this 10-minute drive, and then Ohio State responded like it was just chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. They score a touchdown, and it's just like, oh, God, what do we have to deal with? And I feel like that's how Notre Dame played for like the second and the third quarters.
Yeah. See, it terrified me because that first drive was exactly what Notre Dame needed to do to win the football game. Right? They needed to reel off long, sustained drives, just move the chains, stay ahead of the chains, right? And the running backs did their job on that opening drive as well. And what I didn't expect were things to come as easy as they did for Ohio State on that next drive.
Yeah.
And it came easy. Once that happened, I was like, okay, game on. Here we go. Yeah, but that first drive, I went, oh, my God, if they can sustain this, we're in for a long night. Because
it wasn't just easy on the next drive, Chad. It was easy for the first half.
Yeah, they smacked Notre Dame smacked Ohio State in the mouth on that first drive, and then Ohio State just it was almost like it was a wake up call for Ohio State's defense. And you know, obviously the Ohio State offense just ran with ease for the rest of that first half.
You just reminded me. I feel like it's an analogy of, do you ever watch those videos of the dudes that do like professional slap fighting?
Yeah.
And one guy will slap another, which, by the way, it's the dumbest sport. It's just two dudes giving each other CTE over and over and over again. But one guy will slap the other guy, and it'll be like, oh, because the other guy will be like stunned for a minute. He'll be like, oh.
Yeah.
And then he'll step up to the table and just knock the other guy out. And that was Ohio State. Like, they took the slap, and it hurt.
Right.
But then they stepped back to the table and just knocked the shit out of Notre Dame. Like, it was just from that perspective. And Chad, I think you said it right there. There was no way you could predict that Ohio State's offense was going to move the ball as easily as they did against Notre Dame.
Right.
Notre Dame was the best defense they have played all playoffs.
Right.
They came in with playmakers everywhere on that defensive unit. And Ohio State just, Will Howard was perfect in the first half. Judkins was a monster. Travion Henderson was good. And you got you got your primary players involved early and often. And
Right.
even when I knew it was going right for Ohio State, Chad, even when they would make stupid play calls and God damn it, that direct snap to Jeremiah Smith was the dumbest play call.
Yeah.
But even when they would have stupid play calls that would lose 3, 4, 5 yards, the very next play they would get a first down. And I was like, oh, this is how this game is going.
It didn't matter the down and distance on third down. It just felt like that first half, that entire first half, Will Howard could not miss. He didn't miss. He missed one incompletion, I think it was.
Well, and it's not just that, but so you talk about them getting into the groove, but you also talk about defensively. They were like, okay, all right, this was fun. And Notre Dame helped Ohio State a little bit because they committed some penalties, which, by the way, how about that holding penalty against Notre Dame in the first half?
First one in 12 games, baby.
First one since September 21st. The NCAA officiating crews should be ashamed of that because there's no way JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and Tyleik Williams and those guys, they never got held all season long. But apparently that's what happened.
They never did, Mike. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Notre Dame commits some penalties. They cannot. I mean, Notre Dame is 100% not built to overcome that. And you go to this point where you got about 4.5 minutes to go in the first half, and Ohio State gets the ball back. And now it's 14-7. Ohio State has scored twice. And I looked at my buddy, who is a Notre Dame fan, who I love, and he watches our show a lot, Dan Wise. I was watching it with him. And I said, man, if Ohio State can go do that thing, right? The famous Kevin Stefanski wraparound touchdowns. Stefanski is the name. Wow. Wraparound touchdowns. Yeah, I was struggling there. And that's exactly what they do, right? They go downfield and they score with like 20 seconds left to make it 21-7. And I went, oh, that's it. They get the ball back at half. And I didn't agree with them taking defense to start the game, but when that happened, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, be good.
Yeah. It's a great decision if that's how it plays out.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Judkins just busts that 70-yarder the first drive of the second half. Yeah.
Just a again, just an example of Ohio State when they are right. And when they got it together, they were easily the best team in the country, and it really was that way all year.
Yeah.
And even I took a look at my buddy last night, and I said, man, we were going into the fourth quarter. Man, it felt like Notre Dame had all the momentum. This was my favorite part of the game, by the way. Third quarter, we're going into the fourth quarter. It felt like Notre Dame had all the momentum. Do you realize that Ohio State outscored Notre Dame in the second half to that point?
Yeah.
I looked at my phone. I'm like, oh, how much has Notre Dame caught up? Oh, not at all. Ohio State outscored them 10-8.
Yeah.
And it felt like Notre Dame had the momentum, and it was like, no, they don't. Like, they don't. They're playing a more competitive brand of football, but Ohio State is still just in firm control of this game.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the only two problems I had, I mean, literally, and this is just, well, one's not really nitpicking because I think it's just true all of the time. But the other one was I didn't like how conservative they got when Notre Dame was making that comeback. I didn't like that they were just trying to kill clock. And obviously they were setting up, for a solid 8 minutes there, setting up the Jeremiah Smith downfield to win the game. But yeah, I didn't like how conservative they got, but that doesn't matter because it won the game. They still won the game. And the other thing that I didn't like, and again, it didn't cost them the game, but I just think it's true all the time. Davidson Igbinosun is a terrible corner.
Yeah,
I
yikes,
think he is a
dude.
Terrible defensive.
Yikes.
Huh?
Yikes. Quit. Stop doing that.
He's there's a reason he's the most penalized corner. He's an in the box safety playing corner, and he's in the wrong position right now. He's constantly out of position, and he's the most penalized defensive player in the nation for a reason.
Man, I was, and listen, I had a great time all night last night, but man, when Ohio State had Notre Dame on 3rd and 19, and they just float a pass up. And there was no need for the contact. Like, they were
No.
kind of standing there. Just turn around and look for the ball.
Yeah.
And it was a clear pass interference penalty. It was an obvious call. I was like, oh, maybe this guy should probably go maybe to the sideline. Like, kid,
He's
what
constantly out of position.
What
And
just happened?
He hugs his man all the way down the field. All the way down. It's because he's scared. That's what defensive backs do when they're getting beat. Or
Well,
all bad defensive backs do when they're getting beat.
The funny thing about Igbenogson is he's also the guy that will make the most spectacular plays. Like, I think he probably made the 3 or well, Jack Sawyer notwithstanding last week. But outside of that play, the rest of the 3 or 4 most outstanding defensive plays all season, I think probably came at the hands of Igbenogson.
Yeah.
Remember that interception in that Northwestern game?
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Right.
Outrageous. But in the end, Marcus Freeman makes a wild call to kick a field goal. It made no sense. I don't know why you would do it. And then the kicker doinks the field goal, which is, that can't happen. Ohio State goes very conservative. They're just trying to take time off the clock. Notre Dame plays really well, man. That wide receiver for Notre Dame, Greathouse, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, I understood it. I know everybody didn't agree with the call, and I see why. But I understood why Freeman went for the points, because I mean you're playing against the best, goal line defense in the nation. You don't want to come away with no points. So
you know what you do? You come away with no points.
You come away with no points. You couldn't bank. You weren't going to bank on your kicker, but just pulling a line drive foul down the left field line and just doinking it like that. Yeah, I understood why he did it, but yeah, it was. I still would have went for it.
In the end, Ohio State gets the ball, and all of a sudden it's a 1-possession game, and they're up by 8. And Notre Dame had some great play calls, right? Greathouse made, I mean, that 1 touchdown run where he spun out of a tackle and then beat everybody to the end zone. Unbelievable. And it's their 2-point conversion attempts, Notre Dame's, were things that should be studied. Like, teams should be running those plays. They were unbelievable plays.
Yeah.
On those 2-point attempts.
Yeah.
In the end, though, and you just brought it up, 4th quarter, game on the line. Ohio State up by 1 score now. It's an 8-point game. Will Howard drops back, and Notre Dame goes full on cover 0, man. Just cover 0, man on man. And Ohio State does what we have wished they would do in the Michigan game for 4 years now. And they find their best receiver, and that is Jeremiah Smith this year. And Notre Dame just man on man, 1-on-1 says, we'll try to cover Jeremiah Smith. And you are never, ever, ever, to use a quote from the great Chris Jericho from the WWE or wherever the hell he is now, ever going to win that matchup. You are never going to win that matchup. Will Howard throws a beautiful ball. He gives Jeremiah Smith time to adjust to it, to run underneath it, and he catches the pass that leads to the field goal that puts Ohio State up by 2 scores with less than a minute left. And from there on out, it was just math, and the Ohio State Buckeyes hoisted the trophy.
What an incredible route by Jeremiah Smith, selling the seam because the corner was playing him inside to give him a little bit more space. Like I said, Howard, perfect pass on the back shoulder. And I mean, it was 2024's Holy Buckeye.
Yeah.
It really was. It sealed the game for the Buckeyes.
So let's talk about Chad. Let's talk about guys we feel great for. And Chad, let's start with a guy that I don't think he deserves apologies. Sorry, the champagne's so bubbly. Oh my God. I don't think apologies are necessary, but I think it's okay to admit I feel so good for Ryan Day.
Of course.
Like, head and shoulders. He's a guy that loves being the head coach of Ohio State. He did not take over with the pedigree that somebody like Urban Meyer came in with. He did not have that wild immediate success that a guy like Jim Tressel had. He had to fight through adversity, and the adversity's name has been Michigan.
Yeah.
Ever since Ryan Day took over. But when push came to shove, after a terrible loss to Michigan again, that I think is absolutely his fault, he got his team right. He got his head on right. And he had his team for 4 games against the best competition they played all season, play their best football, and it was by a mile. Ryan Day, I am so happy for that dude.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, his players clearly love him.
Yes.
I mean, and that's in the grand scheme of things, that's really all that matters. As long as he has the love of his family, his friends, and his players, that's it. Those players love him. They buy into everything that he's selling. He's a humble guy. He is. He's a great coach. There's not really a whole lot, if anything, bad you can say about Ryan Day. I mean, he puts an emphasis on mental health. He's just a really good dude, and what a way to get. I mean, I know you still have to beat Michigan, but what a way to get that monkey off your back and shake that loss off, and then to rally your team and motivate your team and win a national championship. So, I mean, absolute cheers goes to Ryan Day.
Speaking of all this, Chad, this is something we've been talking about now for the last 2 months, basically. But I love that the national media has started talking about it. I don't give a shit if I'm Jack Sawyer or JT Tuimoloau or whoever. I don't give a shit. Denzel Burke. I do not care that I don't have a set of gold pants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't care. I mean, it'd be nice. I would have liked to have beat Michigan, but like Jack Sawyer is leaving Ohio State holding the national championship.
Yeah. Yep.
It's Listen, Michigan can sit back for the next year and say, yeah, but we beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
And you know what Ohio State's going to do? Oh, man, good for you. Good for you guys.
Go.
Good.
Way
you
to go.
did it. You
they
did
can
it.
Lean on that national championship trophy and say, oh, well, good for you guys. Good for you.
We hope you enjoyed the show that we put on in the playoff while we were still playing.
Yeah. I mean, right from the horse's mouth here, a former player. I've been texting back and forth with our buddy Mo Hall. I asked him just now, literally. I said, you've been on both. You have both. So I'm curious. Are rings greater than gold pants or vice versa? Or is it too hard to pick? And he goes, Natty for sure.
Oh, for sure.
He goes, Natty for sure. What player? I mean, obviously, I don't want to stress how underestimate the how important the game is. But when it comes, there's a bigger prize in mind. There's always a bigger prize in mind. And that's the national championship. And if I would trade 100 Michigan losses for 100 rings.
I will also, moving on to the next player that I feel really good for. I think the story of Will Howard is cool as hell.
Yeah.
Listen, I know he's not a long time. He's a 1-year Buckeye. The dude comes in for 1 year and wins a Natty. But he was a guy that played at this program for Kansas State Kansas State's got a rich football history there. Obviously, Bill Snyder, one of the great coaches of all time.
Yeah.
Spent an entire career there at Kansas State. And Ohio State's seen them in BCS bowls, right? Kansas State's not like a slouch program.
Right.
But the expectations, I just feel like if you've gone through your entire college career playing in a program like Kansas State, and then you transfer, and you only have 1 year left. You got 1 year of eligibility left, and you transfer to Ohio State. The expectations and the pressure. The minute you walk in the door of the training facility for Ohio State, the expectations hit you in the face.
Yeah.
Different than they do almost anywhere else. There's other places that are similar, but they're at the elite part of that. And the way he responded.
Yeah.
Will Howard comes in and wins a Natty. He spends his entire college football career in Kansas State. And then his last eligible year, he comes to Ohio State and he wins a national championship. I think that story is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, if you look, he's been nothing but a pro. He's handled it all with class. I mean, if the pressure ever got to him, you wouldn't know it. And he really just took on a leadership role that, again, we haven't seen in quite a while. Like, just the difference between McCord and Will Howard was night and day, right? Look at how bad he felt after he lost after the Michigan loss, right? He really took it on the chin. And that's what leaders do. That's what the quarterback of one of arguably the biggest program in the country, the most popular brand team in the country in college football, that's the weight that they bear. And he bared it with incredible class and dignity and emotion. And he backed it up on the field with his play as well. So yeah, absolutely, Will Howard.
Yeah, I just and Will Howard wasn't the only one, right? You had Caleb Downs come in, transfer in, and wins a national title. And Caleb Downs, I do feel really good for him because he took a lot of flack for making some mistakes in the game against Michigan last year. And he comes in and he immediately is one of the best players for the Buckeyes. So there's a couple guys on the list.
Yeah.
But Chase McLaughlin, right? And I know he got hurt, but transfer in, and he was such a big part of what the Buckeyes were.
Right.
But some of these guys that said, yeah, I'm going to go play for Ryan Day. I'm going to go play for Columbus, even though I've put together this really good college career. What a big part of the program that they are. And then
we get another year of Caleb Downs next year too.
And then you got to talk about, and that kind of transitions it, Chad. You got 2 years left of Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
You got 2 more years. And I got to tell you this. When your best player, and Jeremiah Smith is without question your best player, but he's also a kid, a true freshman kid that turned into a leader, right?
Yeah.
Like, make no mistake about it. When you hear him come out publicly saying, hey, if you're going to talk about like Tennessee, all they were talking about how they were going to man up the Ohio State receivers. They're going to man them up. They're going to and you hear Jeremiah Smith come out that week of practice and be like, if you're going to man me up, it is going to be a long week for you.
Yeah.
And it was. And he became a leader at such a young age on this team, knowing you have 2 years left of Jeremiah Smith. It makes, Judkins, Serge talks about Quinshaw Judkins, which, by the way, can somebody please tell Kirk Herbstreit that it's Judkins and not Junkins? He was killing me all night last night. I just think, Chad, what a luxury it's going to be for Ryan Day and this next class of Ohio State Buckeyes. Obviously, you're going to have guys that were on the team this year, but you're going to have more transfers that come in. You're going to have a new recruiting class that comes in. But to have your best player, Jeremiah Smith, who understands what it takes to win that national championship, and who is going to go out and show you by example and by words what it takes over the next 2 years. I mean, I feel like Jeremiah Smith is just not just on the field, but I think even in the locker room, he's just a leg up on everybody. He is just a natural program leg up. The Ohio State Buckeyes for the next 2 years just have a leg up on everybody because they've got that guy in the locker room.
Yeah, he's the best player in the country. He's only 19 and he's the best player in the country. It's the only thing you can really say about him is the only thing you have to wonder about Jeremiah Smith and where he goes from here is who the hell's going to be throwing him the ball next year.
Right.
That's it. That's the only question about him right now. Right. Because if Julian Sayin or Tavian St. Clair or a transfer can't get him the ball, he's going to be ineffective. But with that guy in the field, it is always a threat to go for 6. I mean, the guy is unstoppable. He's fucking Megatron. He's got Megatron aura, I guess, as a Surge.
Wait, right back to it. Hold on, go back to it.
By the way, Surge, where the hell have you been?
Yeah, right.
The guy is just. You're going to have to game plan for him next year. Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis should eat next year because of this guy. Because if you're a coach and you just watch this playoff, and you man up Jeremiah Smith, you're a fucking moron. So he's gonna have to figure out how to beat zone coverage next year, and he's got to have a quarterback that's gonna have to do it. It's I don't know. The guy is the best player in the country. Like I said, that's all it really comes back to. Circle back to the best player in the country, and what a luxury it is for Ohio State to have him.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very fun to watch the narrative change about Ohio State. It's been very fun to watch, even just my own thought process change about Ryan Day. I mean, what he did with these kids this postseason, just you bought yourself out of all the doubts that the doubts that I shared on this show over the last several years.
Yeah,
those are gone, right? You got to figure out a way to beat Michigan because you just frankly can't lose to them every year. But
right.
Otherwise, man, what I saw out of Ryan Day and this team, unbelievable. So let's talk really quickly about moving forward, Chad. And let's talk about some of these kids coming out in the NFL draft. Chad, in the playoffs, is it fair to say in your brain, did Will Howard do the most of any Ohio State player to improve his draft stock?
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah. How could you argue it any other way? It's the guy. I don't know. Again, he played like a leader. He played like a guy who was comfortable. He played like a guy who knew where his feet were supposed to be. The entire time. He knew where the ball was going. He was going through progressions. He felt pressure. He eluded the pressure. He scrambled when he needed to. He made all the right decisions for 4 straight games in this playoff against the best competition in the country. So yeah, he 100% elevated his draft stock.
Do you know what I love the most about this Ohio State team? Maybe 1 first-round draft pick this year.
Yeah.
Right? Ibuka?
Yeah.
Probably a late first-round draft pick.
He'd be somewhere in the 20s there.
You may get maybe Tyleik Williams moves up into the first round.
Sure.
He's a borderline first rounder.
Sure.
But obviously, I'm not saying they don't have first round talent. Caleb Downs will probably be a first round draft pick. And obviously when Jeremiah Smith comes out, he is.
Well, yeah. But as far as this year goes.
This year, right. Your quarterback is he may have moved up to a second round draft stock.
Second or third at least.
You're talking about these corners, right? I love Denzel Burke, but man, he is slotted as a third rounder. Igbinosun, I know everybody hates him, but he's slotted as kind of like a third rounder. Yeah, you've got the 2 running backs, and we know how running backs get drafted in the NFL, but Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are both going to be in the draft this year. Maybe McLaughlin would have been a guy that would have been a first rounder had he not gotten hurt. But the way Ohio State won football games, I don't know, man. They did it without. It wasn't like you're not going to have 8 first round Buckeyes,
right?
They did it with all these guys that just understand what it takes to be a team player, and that to me, this year to me, and I always try to be very impartial, Chad, about. I don't want the Browns to just go out there and target Ohio State players. I don't like that philosophy.
No,
I think plenty of time there's times that it's worked, Denzel Ward, and there's times that it's been terrible, Brian Robisky. But Tommy Togiai, who got a sack in the playoffs, by the way.
Nice.
But To me, I feel like this is a year where the Browns are concerned about putting a team together, right?
Right.
I wouldn't mind them walking away with a couple of these dudes in those mid rounds. Like, these guys understand what it takes to build a winning team without that ego that it takes to be like, I've got to be a top draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, Denzel Burke didn't help himself this year at all. He came back and won a Natty, but I mean, remember, when he came out last year, he had a first-round grade last year. And he certainly did not help his draft stock coming back, but
I also think there were times Denzel Burke looked like the best player out on the field. Like,
he's a national champion right now. But
that's true. That's true.
It's sure, absolutely. You come away with these guys. The Browns are in a position to come away with some of these guys, and you'd have to take a serious look at them, because I'm not take Ohio State player to take just because they're an Ohio State player guy either. But if I truly think they're going to help this team, I don't have an issue taking Ohio State. If I truly think they're going to help the Browns, I don't have an issue with that. Like, especially with the Browns' needs along the interior defensive line, at linebacker, and defensive back now, which is going to be after the Browns make some moves this offseason. So, yeah, I mean, you look at all that talent on that defensive side, especially after the performance they put forth, during the regular season and into the playoffs. They were consistent all year for the most part. Yeah, sure. How could you not want a Sonny Styles or a Cody Simon or like I said, Tyleek Williams? It's how could you not take a look at those guys if you're in the middle rounds? Because A, they're champions. B, incredible contributors on the best defense in the nation. Why would you not? Why would you not consider them? It would be stupid not to.
So, Chad, real quick before we get off the Buckeyes, and we're tying it into the Browns because I really don't have anything else about the Browns I give a shit to talk about right now.
No, yeah. But the next time I'm going to care about the Browns is March 12th. When
there may be things that come up between now and then. But right now, I don't give a shit to talk about the Browns. But I will say this as a Browns fan. If you're looking at the draft and you know the players that are coming out for Ohio State, and again, it's not about you got to draft Ohio State players. It's not like that. This is just for fun. Who's the guy? Who's the guy that you're like, oh, I would love the Browns to wind up with him?
Would love the Browns to wind up with him. Jack Sawyer.
He's mine. He's mine. He's mine.
Yeah.
Chad, he reminds me of goddamn TJ Watt, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I know we hate him. But
I think TJ Watt's a little faster,
Sawyer,
but
if you could make Jack Sawyer the not primary pass rusher, you could make him the second guy,
sure,
like TJ Watt is in Pittsburgh. I know people hate that in Pittsburgh, but Highsmith's the better pass rusher. If you could put Jack Sawyer across from Myles Garrett, Jack Sawyer is so good at getting his hands up, getting them on the ball. If he doesn't win in the pass rush, he still finds a way to make plays.
Right.
He's good in the run. He is good at everything.
Right.
And that's I'm like, if I don't know what you're going to take care of in the first round. I know here on the OBR, people are falling in love with a lot of different things. I can't believe they're not going to look quarterback first. I know people hate that because it seems simplistic. But without a quarterback, you don't win in the NFL. And I know you can dive way deeper than that, but that's the truth. It is so rare for teams without that star quarterback to win in the NFL.
Right.
To win a Super Bowl. You can tell me about how Nick Foles did it, and then I'll tell you about Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And it's a much longer list of elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So I'll just be shocked if they don't go that route to start. But second round, if Jack Sawyer's sitting on the board right there, and you're like, I could pair Jack Sawyer with Myles Garrett,
right?
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yes.
Sign me up.
Yes, that is a person that again, I can truly see helping the Browns. It's not just because he's Ohio State. It's Jack Sawyer is for the reasons that you just said. I would love to put him opposite Myles.
I think you could put Jack Sawyer opposite Miles. And I think like 3 years from now, people will be having discussions on who's better. It's always going to be Miles, but I think Jack could rack up a lot of stats because of Myles Garrett.
Right, for sure.
And I would love that. I would love that. I also think Seth McLaughlin, like 5th round.
Yeah, late rounds.
Because of the injury.
Absolutely.
I think that dude would be a 1st-round pick if not for that injury.
You're going to need a replacement for Posick soon anyway.
I think he's a 1st or 2nd rounder minus the injury.
Well, yeah, he was an All-American. He was the best center. He was up for what's the center award? The Remington?
I would love that too. I know we got Drew in Brick City saying Judkins. Would not be mad about that at all.
Nope.
Wouldn't be mad about that at all. But yeah, listen, the Buckeyes are champs and it feels great. And this is what sports rooting and cheering and fandom is supposed to feel like.
This is the payoff.
The Ohio State Buckeyes, for as much as people talk about them like they are a dynasty kind of program, I'm 40 years old. I've seen them win a national title 3 times now.
Right.
2002, 2014, and now 2014, 15, 2024, 25.
Hey, Mike. Go us, huh? We're 3-time national champions.
Go us.
We're 3-time.
I haven't taken the sweatshirt off. I've worn this sweatshirt for 2 straight days.
Yeah, I haven't taken this hat off either.
2 straight days.
My head is huge and I can't get it off. But anyway, what do we got next?
I love it. Hey, do we have assholes of the week?
If you want one,
let's do it. Before we go into maybe some quick hitters, because we only have a half hour left. Before we go into some quick hitters, why don't we do assholes of the week? Why don't we do an asshole of the week? Go on, Chad. Who's your asshole of the week this week?
Well, my first is CC Sabathia.
What?
Yeah, for going into the Hall of Fame as a Yankee and not an Indian. Go fuck yourself.
He always said he was going to do that.
Yeah, I hate him. Anyway. What? Hey, don't give me that look, you son of a bitch. And then again, I mean, I know I said it last time, but everybody that my next one goes out to everybody that is discrediting this national championship, right? Everybody who goes, oh, congrats on your 2-loss championship. Congrats on your 2-loss without a conference champ, your 2-loss. Hey, guess what? Just because you're saying it, it doesn't make it true. The truth is Ohio State's national champions.
Yeah, we'll remember how much you cared about those 2 losses when we are hanging the banner.
Yeah. Oh, there's a parade
at Ohio Stadium.
Yeah, there's a parade, by the way, Sunday for the new national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Go fuck yourselves.
Gregory H. People that can't drive in snow. It's a good asshole of the week. I think it's very much debatable on what you mean by this. Because I think you've got the people that like get afraid to drive in the snow and they like cause accidents. But I also think it's the people who think you can just drive in the snow like you drive normal and they also cause accidents. I almost got rear-ended last week. Some guy, it was a whiteout snow conditions. It was icy as hell on the roads. And some guy is flying down. I'm out here in North Ridgeville, Chestnut Ridge going 45. And we come up to a stop sign and he's behind me. Thank God he swerved and he just went right into somebody's front yard and hit a tree.
Truck?
Man, you have to understand, like, sometimes you can't just drive like it's normal. You got to slow down, take your time, and stop being an idiot.
Truck?
And now he has got some repairs to make to his truck.
Knew it. It's always a truck.
It is.
Yeah. Because for some reason, they think that it's weighted down as evenly as a car is, and it's not, dipshits.
Now, I want to be fair about my asshole of the week because it's not all Michigan fans.
You want to be fair about your asshole. I get it.
My very, very good buddy, Matt Spiegel, not part of this crew. He was texting me all night last night like, Ohio State's the best team in the country, and I hate it. He hates it. He's not happy about it. He's a big Michigan fan. He lives in Toledo, big Michigan guy. He's like, I'm not happy about it, but like, there's no arguing this, right? And in the meantime, we're in a group text together with a bunch of other guys, and there's another Michigan fan that just will not acknowledge that Ohio State's good. Like, right? It's just like, oh, they're lucky this, they got lucky with this, oh, the officials this, and everything is like there's no credit to Ohio State. So my asshole of the week is just that Michigan fan. I hope you didn't sleep last night. I hope you don't sleep tonight. I hope you enjoyed watching my team play for the national championship as opposed to your team, where your team was probably watching the game at the same goddamn B-dubs that you were watching it at. Yeah. It's okay to acknowledge, just like we did on this show, we acknowledged that Michigan was the best team in football last year.
Yeah. Even though there's an asterisk. What?
If you're not willing to acknowledge that, then you're an asshole. So my asshole of the week is the Michigan fans who feel the need to say, yeah, but, oh, you're the national champs, but you lost to us. We don't care. We don't care.
Guess what?
We do not care.
Still the national champions.
Oh, hold on while I explain to you how much we care. Next topic. Yeah. Next topic.
Yeah, I think I've replied to everybody who did that on Twitter today with that Larry, who's the guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm? Larry David. That Larry David bit. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yes, I love that. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of quick topics that I want to hit on over the next 25 minutes or so, Chad. One, I think it was an interesting week for both the Blue Jackets and the Cavaliers, and I want to just hit on both teams real quickly. So let's start with the Cavaliers.
Okay.
Because if you'll remember last week, they had that big game against Oklahoma City in Cleveland. Yeah. They win that game.
The sky's falling, right, Mike?
They win that game.
Oh, the win, yeah.
Then they win a couple more games. They get on to like a 12-game winning streak, and everything is just beautiful. And then the rematch happens this past week. And the Cavaliers go down to Oklahoma City and just get their doors blown off.
Right.
Like legitimately, I want to say Jared Allen dunked the ball for the Cavs' first basket of the game, and it was like, let's go. And then Oklahoma City made every play from there on out. And I got to tell you, man, I get online and I see we've got a lot of friends at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We've got a lot of friends there, and we love the guys and ladies that work over there. But I saw their official Twitter page say, what's wrong with the Cavs? Can it be fixed? And I'm like, that was their 6th loss of the season, and it's almost February.
Right.
And obviously they come back and they win in Minnesota. And then yesterday they absolutely dominate the Phoenix Suns in Cleveland. And it's like business as usual. But I do think it's been a bit of an interesting week. Like, do you think, Chad, when you're looking at these other sports, right, NBA and NHL specifically at this point, like, I feel like NFL culture is something people can't get their heads out of. I feel like football culture is something people can't take themselves away from, because in football culture, one loss can feel devastating. Shit, look at Ohio State. When they lost to Michigan, it was like devastating. They're never going to do anything. This sucks. Everything's bad.
Right.
But like in an 82-game season, when you lose to the other team that is the other best team in the league on the road, it's not a big deal. It's not no. You want to win that game because you want to win every game, but like, man, I felt like everybody just lost their minds, and I feel like I want to blame it on football culture.
I mean, I get it, right? Because I get your reasoning behind it, because, like, with people go nuts over football, right? Because there's so few games.
Right.
There's so few games, so every loss does feel devastating.
Right.
But it's, I mean, that was what? That Oklahoma City game was what? Game 46 of 82?
Not
something
even.
Like that.
Game 40, I think it was.
Yeah. No, and it's just, there's still half a season to go. No, that whole what's wrong with the Cavs and can it be fixed is strictly for engagement by any media outlet that you see. But people going nuts over one game, like, oh yes, they got their ass kicked. It's an off night. It's going to happen. Guess what? They beat the Thunder at home too, so it's not like the Thunder has the Cavs number at all. So it's just, yeah, people need to just sit down and relax, touch some grass, have a beer, and move on, right? Because the Cavs finally had a bad game. Right? They had a bad game mainly because of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's going to happen within the course of an 82-game season. It's just going to happen. And it happened against the other best team in the other conference. So
you know what's been great about the Cavs?
Huh?
Is that they've had other bad games this season. They've had games they have not played well. And you know how good they are? They win those games.
Right.
They finally had a game against a team. It's kind of what happened in that first Boston game where Darius Garland was atrocious in that game. Disappeared. Donovan Mitchell disappeared against the Thunder in this game, and they played bad, and it happened against a team that could make them pay for it. There's only Chad, if anything, it should make you feel more optimistic about the Cavs because there's only 2 or 3 teams in the NBA that can make them pay for a bad game.
Yeah.
They have played bad games against good teams and still won.
Right.
That's what the Cavs are. So, if anything, I hope it shows the Cavaliers, especially when you get into playoff time. When you get to a certain elite level, you're going to play Boston in the playoffs.
Right.
You play a bad game, they're going to beat you.
Right.
But if you play a good game, you could beat anybody.
Right.
I don't know. I just thought it was a very interesting week. And then for them to bounce back against Minnesota, I thought was great. And to be honest with you, this game, the Phoenix Suns should be my asshole of the week because I felt bad for every Phoenix Suns fan on the planet. The fact that you trot out Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and I'm an avid Devin Booker supporter. I love Devin Booker. I think he's a phenomenal player. Yeah. One of my favorite players in the entire NBA. And you trot out Bradley Beal and this other cast of all-star players. And the Cavaliers didn't have Evan Mobley. They didn't have Karis LeVert. They didn't have Isaac Okoro. They played like a skeleton. You had Jalen Tyson, who I like. I like Jalen Tyson a lot, but he got minutes in that game.
Right.
Tristan Thompson played 26 minutes in that game.
Right.
And the Cavaliers just like the Suns never competed.
Right. Right.
I love the way the Cavs have bounced back after that loss. So they get a shout out.
Yeah.
Speaking of a team that's been red hot, but has since faced a loss, and now we don't know how they're going to bounce back from it. But the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Sure.
What a red hot team they've been. They won 6 games in a row. They won overtime games and shootout games, and they won games in regulation. To me, to be honest with you, Chad, the game that shows the growth of the Blue Jackets was the Sharks game. And I know the Sharks are not a good hockey team, but the Blue Jackets are a team now that just blows out teams that are not as good as them. That's where we're at. A lot of people after that Sharks game, Chad, were like, yeah, but it was just the Sharks. And I'm like, yeah, but do you realize what that says about the Blue Jackets?
Right.
That it was yeah, we blew their doors off and we were supposed to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, even when, even games in the past against, bad teams like the Sharks, the Blue Jackets still had trouble. I mean, those games would be 5-4, right? The Jackets would jump out to a 4-1 lead and then give it up. And, Sharks would tie it up and they would have to go into overtime or a shootout. No, the Jackets are now at a point talent-wise where they are beating inferior teams like the Sharks, and they're beating them soundly. I mean, that game was played mostly in the Sharks' end, right? So that's where you see the progress with the Jackets, right? I mean, and then the nice thing about the Jackets is that this is the house money season. Right, so they're red hot. They're playing so well. They're in contention for a wild card spot. But no one saw this coming. No one saw any of this coming, and it's anything they do from here on out is just icing on the cake. And I'll tell you what, Mike. Though even though it was in a loss in a shootout, to me, that was another sign of progress. Was the Rangers game a couple of nights ago, right? Yes, the Rangers aren't as good as they have been in the past. They traded away one of their leaders in Trouba. They traded away Capo Caco, so they didn't have their full array of weapons that they've had in the past. But the fact that the Jackets went into Madison Square Garden, one of the toughest places to play, and Igor Shesterkin is still one of the best goaltenders in the league, if not the best. And they play a good, tight defensive hockey game. And they had plenty of opportunities. I mean, Zach Werenski, I think, hit 4 or 5 posts that entire game, and they had their chances. But they played the Rangers all the way to a shootout. And if it comes to a shootout, I'm taking Shesterkin over Merzlikins every single time.
100%.
So it just shows you the grit and the toughness that they can play with. And these last 2 games, even though it's been 2 losses, they've played better on the road, right? It starts with defense on the road.
That was the problem with them early in the season, is they played terrible on the road. They've been much better lately.
Yeah, it starts with defense on the road, and they played tighter. And they lost to the Islanders last night, and I didn't do a recap for that one because
a convincing win for the Islanders. It was
because I didn't do a recap for that one because I wasn't watching it because the Ohio State Buckeyes were playing for the national championship.
There was this football game on. Yeah.
So, and against the Islanders the other night, it was still a tight hockey game, but the Islanders, there were a couple of defensive lapses in the second period there. The Islanders pulled away and they didn't give up the lead, but the Jackets are starting to play better on the road as well. So anybody, even the worst teams can play well at home, but when you start playing well on the road, it's just another little baby step of progress. Because please keep in mind, any Jackets fan out there, please keep in mind, with as good as the Jackets have been playing this season, this is still very much a build, right? They're not there yet. This is still very much a build. So you're looking for any sort of progress, and the Jackets have been making all sorts of strides this year, and they've been very apparent in these last couple of games.
That leads me to 2 questions. And one is about this stretch of games that they are about to embark on, and the next one is probably going to be about the Cavs and the Jackets. But the Jackets, they get a point at least in that overtime loss, the shootout loss to the Rangers. They get beat against the Islanders. Tomorrow they go to Toronto. Toronto's been, again, what they usually are, which is one of the best regular season teams in hockey, and they'll blow it in the playoffs. But still, in the regular season, they're hard to beat. So they're going to play Toronto in Toronto. Then they're going to Carolina to play the Hurricanes in Carolina. Then they're coming home to play the Kings, and the Kings are a good hockey team. The Golden Knights are a really good hockey team. They're going out to Vegas. And even the Utah hockey team or hockey club or whatever they're called is having a pretty decent season. This is a very difficult stretch of games for the Columbus Blue Jackets. How do you see this playing out, knowing how they're playing lately?
It's really going to be a measuring stick, right? Because you got Toronto and Carolina. I mean, regular season Toronto is elite, right? Regular season Toronto has been elite for quite a while now. And then you have Carolina, a team that is just so fast, all 4 lines. They come at you in waves, and they've got the goaltending to match it. And Carolina is just an all-around good hockey team. No real superstars, but just a bunch of good hockey players. And then you have a great mix of veteran leadership and young guys against the Kings. The Kings are right there in the West. And then obviously the Vegas Golden Knights, who I don't know. It just every time you see them get rid of somebody, you think they're going to get worse. And oh, look at that, they're one of the best teams in the Western Conference yet again, as well. So and Utah is, they're the Arizona Coyotes. It's just it's a winnable hockey game for the Jackets. It's their first trip out to Utah, so they can that's a winnable hockey game there. But then after that they go to Dallas again. The conference finals contender Dallas every year. It's one of they are probably the most talented hockey team in the NHL, all around talented hockey team. And then they end at Buffalo. So. It's a rough stretch.
Chad,
and the Jackets are going to be tested, so it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I can't say how many wins they're going to come out with, but it's going to be an interesting measuring stick here, probably the biggest of the season.
Chad, there's 35 games left. This is a Columbus Blue Jackets team that finished the season last year with 66 points. They were one of the worst teams in hockey last year. They've got 51 points already on the year, just like so remarkably different and such a market improvement. 51 points already on the year, and they've got 35 games left to play to overcome what they did last year. They should shatter what they did last year. And again, this is a team that's competing for the postseason. So here's the question I have for you, Jed. And we'll finish with the Cavs and the Blue Jackets with the same kind of conversation. What should they do as we approach trade deadline time? So let's start with the Jackets, Chad, then we'll go to the Cavs. Here's a Jackets team that is currently fighting for playoff positioning. I mean, they are in the thick of it, and we are talking about a Jackets team that could be playing playoff hockey 1 year after being one of the worst teams in hockey. So as playoff trade deadline, all that kind of stuff comes up, what do you want the Blue Jackets to do this year?
I think if there's a trade out there for a really good wing player or center that results in that player being here long term, I think you make it. You don't go for it. Go for it are when you trade for rentals and then you're going for cups. This team is not there. But I think if there is a trade out there for someone kind of fairly young or maybe, just in the beginning of their veteran leaders type status, I think you make it because this team could use a little bit more of that. I don't think you need goaltending right now, especially with the way Tarasov has been playing the last couple of games. So I think if there's a trade out there where, like I said, it can result in long-term help for this team, then yes, I think you have to make it without sacrificing too much of your young talent as well. So it's very complicated. It's not like, just bang, boom, pow, get rid of these guys. But if there's a trade out there to be had for something like that, I think you make it because you want this team to just keep progressing. You don't want to set yourself back. But it's a very specific trade. But something like that, then I'm all about that. Like I've heard Brock Besser, his name has been thrown out there. I would absolutely take Brock Besser on this team. Elias Pettersson, no thanks. But Brock Besser, send him over. I'll go to Vancouver and pick him up.
Yeah, I think it's a similarity with the Cavs and the Blue Jackets that I like for two different reasons. I don't think there's a real urgency for the Blue Jackets to make a trade because they're not supposed to be all that great this year. And I think Dean Evison is installing the system, and you're seeing the fruits of it and how good it can be and how good the potential is if they can build around the guys that they have. But I don't think there's any urgency for them to go out and just start making deals. I feel the same exact way about the Cleveland Cavaliers for a very different reason, though. I think for the Cavaliers, you've got to be careful. You got to be careful. You go out and make trades to make trades. You go out and make trades to say, oh, we're really going for it. Well, if that trade rips apart the chemistry of your team, if that trade doesn't do what you think it's going to do, if you go out and trade for a guy that just doesn't fit in the locker room the way the guys you have now are fitting in the locker room, it's going to, even if the player is better than the sum of the players that you trade away, it's going to be damaging. And so for me right now with the Cavaliers, Chad, I know there's reported interest that they are very interested in Cam Thomas from Brooklyn. And Cam Thomas is an incredible player. He has an incredible talent. But unless you are damn sure that Cam Thomas comes in here and is better from a sum of all the parts perspective than the guys you are going to have to trade and the pieces you are going to have to trade to get him. I'm not interested. To me, for the Cavaliers. Now, I will say this. The regression over the last month of Karis LeVert has made the trade deadline much more interesting for me.
Okay.
Because Karis was so good to start the year.
Yeah.
But I thought, how could you? I mean, he was leading the NBA in 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I saw him make a 3-pointer.
You knew he was going to regress in some form, right?
Yeah, but like it's been a hard regression lately. So if he's a trade piece, because we've talked about this on this show, like he is not good for the salary cap element of the Cavaliers. If he's part of the trade piece, I get it. I don't want this Cavaliers team to go out and make a move because they're like, we're going for it. And the move turns out to not be great for the locker room of the Cavaliers. Like, there's no way to quantify that. There's no way to really dive into that other than, like, take a guy like George Niang. I think if you take his overall stats, they probably don't look all that impressive.
Okay.
But damn it, that guy makes winning plays night in and night out. And it just seems like the shots that he hits are big shots. So if you're going to trade a guy like him, you better be damn sure the return is going to give you something better than that. So for me,
was it Cam Thomas or Cam Johnson that they're interested in?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I said Cam Thomas. It's Cam Johnson. I feel stupid.
Okay.
I always feel stupid.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson are both on the team, so I don't know.
I feel like the only thing I really care that the Cavaliers do is jump into that buyout market that's going to happen after the trade deadline, and just grab another big man. Like you're seeing it right now. Like, and man, Tristan Thompson played a really good game yesterday against the Suns, but you don't really want Tristan Thompson playing 26 to 30 minutes a game. So in the buyout market, if you can get a valuable big man that can come in, after Jared Allen, after Evan Mobley, a guy that can rebound and play defense and get you points when you need them, that's the guy I want. I don't know that I want them giving up a bunch to bring in a different player.
Yeah.
Keep your assets, roll with what you have right now, and see if you can get a big man on that buyout market. And that's what I want the Cavs to do.
There we go.
So that's that.
That works. Would you rather have Cam Johnson or I don't know who would be all right, here you go. In your mind, obviously this is just speculation, but in your mind, if they did trade for Cam Johnson, what does that cost you? And would you rather have him over the players in that trade?
First of all, I think if you trade for Cam Johnson, obviously the draft picks are going to have to be a part of it. I don't really care about that at this point because late first round NBA draft picks are very difficult to score on. And that's what the Cavs are going to have from here on out. And so you're talking about late first round picks and late second round picks. I don't give a shit about those at this point. But you're also talking about Karis LeVert, or you're talking about George Niang. And those guys, or you're talking about Ty Jerome. Those are the guys that scare me a bit.
Okay.
Karis LeVert, I could see why they would trade him. And it's for a lot of reasons. I don't really want to George Niang doesn't I'm not interested in getting rid of him. Like I think he plays such an integral role to this team. So I don't know if I think the Cavaliers have the firepower to make a trade for a guy like Cam Johnson, unless the Nets are like, we just got to get rid of this guy.
All right.
Unless they're like, for future planning purposes, we have to get rid of Cam Johnson. If that's the case, cool. I think the Cavs can do it.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
All right. So one last thing I wanted to talk about, Chad, before we get out of here. Over the last couple of weeks, Major League Baseball has done what Major League Baseball does. And what is that? Well, it's the LA Dodgers. And it's the LA Dodgers coming off of a World Series victory. And they wind up signing the phenom Japanese prospect, Roki Sasaki, who said he didn't want to go to a big city type of team. And then he went right to the Dodgers. And then it's just this week, the LA Dodgers sign a good closer in baseball in Kirby Yates for $75 million. And it's just... What?
This is never going to get fixed. So I don't,
But like, what? It's not. This isn't fun.
No, it's not.
It's not fun. It's not fun. Listen, I know people in Cleveland are gonna be able, but look at what the Guardians did, and I'm always, Chad. I'm always going to be on team. You haven't hung you have not hung a banner since 1948.
Right.
And I know that pisses people off because they're like, yeah, but look at how competitive they are. And I'm like, yes, they're super competitive. They're more competitive than I even give them credit for.
Right.
They haven't hung a banner since 1948.
Right.
This isn't fun, man.
No.
It's not fun being a fan of a team that has to reshape and reorganize itself every freaking year because
that's the frustrating part. I think that's the most frustrating part is they don't have to, but they do. That's just how they choose to run the organization.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But like, there's only so many teams that can just go out and just do whatever they want all the time, spend as much money as they want.
Right.
There's only a list of like 5 teams that can do that in Major League Baseball.
Right.
And to me, again, we're at this offseason where this offseason reminds me a lot of the 2007 offseason, which is, hey, our team was really fun last year. And look at the run that they went on. And they made it to the ALCS. And we did nothing to improve it. Nothing. Zero. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not one thing has been done to improve the team.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but if this guy comes up and plays well, that'd be great. And if this guy plays well, it'd be great. It's like, we don't need ifs. If you're a team that makes it to the final 4 of your sport, we don't need ifs anymore. We need guys that can come in and help you get over the hump. And you're not going to get it here. And so to watch a team like the Dodgers that won the World Series go out and make every signing in the offseason, every one that they wanted, they got.
Right.
What's fun about this? What is fun about this?
Nothing.
Why do we as fans put up with it? Why do we as fans just ignore? Oh, well, that's just how it is. It's not fun.
I mean, I don't think
and baseball, again, I will always go back to this. Why is it hard to sell tickets in Cleveland? It is hard to sell tickets in Cleveland because when you get a fan favorite player like Josh Naylor, you know he's not going to be here long. Guess what, Cleveland? You don't get to root for Josh Naylor anymore because as much as you loved him, he's gone.
Right.
You don't get to root for Andres Gimenez. I know people have a lot of different feelings about Andres Gimenez, but you don't get to root for him anymore because he's gone.
Right.
You went to arbitration. You didn't even extend Stephen Kwan. You arbitrated with Stephen Kwan. You gave him a 1-year deal for nothing, basically. You didn't even extend Stephen Kwan. So I know this isn't just a Cleveland problem, but the problem is with Major League Baseball. And it pisses me off when I hear Major League Baseball and analysts and people in the front offices and stuff go, why is it so hard to sell tickets?
Yeah.
It's hard to sell tickets because we don't think Stephen Kwan's going to be here in 2 years.
Right.
It's hard to sell tickets because we got told to enjoy Francisco Lindor.
Right.
Which, by the way, for everybody said that the Cleveland Indians at the time, now Guardians, won that trade. No, they did not. They got their doors blown off in that trade. Nobody is left. Nobody's left from that trade. This stuff happens.
Sure.
And I get frustrated, and then I get more frustrated because I get told by people that I need to be okay with it. Oh, it's just how it is. Look at how good the Guardians have been in the regular season. Oh, my God, look at their regular season win total. Oh, you need to be okay with this because they're so good at player evaluation. And, oh, they're so good at drafting players. Oh, my God, they're so good at putting teams together, even though they don't have the budgets. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. They haven't won a World Series since 1948. None of it matters. None of it matters. And I'm tired of it. And so to watch the Dodgers go out this week and sign Roki Sasaki and Kirby Yates, nothing matters. None of it matters. The Guardians can come out and win 97 games next year, and they're going to lose in the playoffs.
Yeah, take a drink after that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've accepted it. I know you don't want to. I don't want to either. But maybe I haven't accepted it. I'm just not surprised. Right? Until this majority owner takes over, which there's no guarantee that he's even going to have any money to spend.
We've heard nothing about that, by the way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, until he takes over, I don't know. I don't know. Why would I expect them to do anything out of the ordinary that they've already done? Because they don't. It's every year. Like I told you, Mike, it's the revolving door of uncertainty. We don't know how these people are going to perform. We don't know if Stephen Kwan's going to be here, so I guess we should enjoy it. Right? Jose Ramirez, enjoy him too, I guess, unless he signs another team-friendly deal when his time is up. It's just the way a lot of teams in baseball work. And why is it hard to sell tickets? The answer is simple. Like you said, Stephen Kwan, we don't know if he's going to be here in a couple of years, right? You know, it's the same thing goes with the Rays. The same thing goes with it's almost like it's minor league because you just can't get too attached to guys. You just can't. And, you know, Jeff Passan, John Heyman, and guys like that must have have the most boring jobs in the offseason, right? Because every free agent that you see, every hot name free agent, they always do these like MLB hot stove talks. And they're like, oh, well, Sasaki, right? You know, the Dodgers are in the running, the Phillies are in the running, the Giants are in the running, the Cubs are in the running. Okay. All right. Yeah. And moving on. Oh, I don't know. Bryce Harper. Okay. The Phillies are in the running. The Dodgers are in the running. The Giants are in the running. The Yankees are in the running. It's the same shit all the time. So it's not fun. It's not fun, and baseball's not going to be fun when it comes to this type of stuff until something changes. It's just the way it's always going to be until maybe they get their heads out of their asses, which they never will. And it is. It just is what it is. We just have to hope we catch lightning in a bottle for that 1 year to get us a championship, Mike. Otherwise, it's everything just has to go right for a team like the Guardians.
I don't want to hear about parity. It does not exist. It doesn't exist. You guys are making up parity. You're making up parity because one team every year that isn't supposed to be great. You're making up parity because one team every year that didn't spend a ton of money makes a run. They win their division. They make the playoffs. They go to the ALCS. And yeah, look at Brad Ward. Last year was fun. They never had a chance. They didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
And they lost in the ALCS. And then they're going to look at us. They're going to look at us as fans and say, you should be happy with that. See you later, Josh Naylor. You should be happy with that. See you later, the entire starting pitching crew that got us to the ALCS. You should be oh my God. But remember in 2024 when they made the ALCS? Oh, that was amazing. It's not amazing. You haven't hung a banner since 1948.
Right.
And we can blame this on baseball. And yes, I do blame it on baseball more than I blame it on even the Dolans with the Guardians. But you know what? The shit isn't fun. Yes, Brad, last year was fun. I had a great time. I had a great time watching the Guardians beat the Tigers. I had a great time rooting for them against the Yankees. But in the end, they have not hung a banner since 1948. I am going to go to opening day again this year and watch them celebrate a Central Division banner like it means jack shit. And it doesn't. It means nothing. It means you are the best of the White Sox, the Royals, the Tigers, and the Twins. And that's all it means. That is literally all it means. You haven't hung a banner since before my mom was born. My mom was born in 1950. The last time you hung a banner was 1948, and we're supposed to act like this is acceptable. And yes, it's more of a baseball issue than it is a Guardians issue. And no, I don't think anything's going to happen. And no, I don't think it's going to get fixed. But I'm so tired of having to cheer for, at least with the Cavaliers, I can cheer for a team that legitimately year in and year out has a chance to win a title. At least with the Cleveland goddamn Browns, I am cheering for a team, and I know this sounds crazy, but they at least have a chance year in and year out to win a goddamn title. I am rooting my heart out for a Cleveland Guardians organization that has no shot to win a title. It is like rooting for Bowling Green to win an NCAA football championship. That's what I'm doing in Major League Baseball. I'm rooting for North Dakota State to beat Alabama. That's what I'm doing in Major League Baseball. It sucks. It's not fun. A year in and year out can be fun, but the overall fan experience in Major League Baseball sucks a butt. And that's where we're at. And I know I've done this. I've done this rant on this show 700 times. But every year we get to this point where it's like, oh, but Roki Sasaki maybe doesn't want to go to a big city, and maybe he'd be interested in a city like Cleveland.
Yeah, they got to make it interesting.
He doesn't want to sign a big, huge contract. And, oh, maybe this guy doesn't want to play here, or maybe this guy. And they always want to play at the places that are going to pay them the most money. Always. And then we got these teams. You have to rely on just God. You better hope all of your best players are playing their best on the same year, because if they are not, you're not going to win. And I don't want to hear all the other bullshit, because again, I will say the only team with a season ending payroll that was in the bottom half of MLB payrolls that won a World Series was the 2003 Marlins. And that is it. You got no shot. You have no chance. And that's what sucks. That's what sucks.
That's a good rant.
Sorry, I'm going to just go back into my champagne. Hey, you remember when Ohio State won the national?
Yeah, right. No, seriously. I mean, that's all you have to get sold on. And it's going to be exciting. Like typical Guardians fans are going to be excited every year because they think winning the Central means that they can win the World Series. And sure, it does give them a shot. Because you get to the dance and you never know what's going to happen, but it never happens for the smaller market teams. It never ever happens.
It's the biggest lie in sports. We get told. Yeah, you get to the dance and you never know what's going to happen. You know what? Stop saying that bullshit. You get to the dance and you know exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly.
You know exactly what's going to happen, because it happens every freaking year. Even the Royals team that won the World Series, by the time the season ended, they were a top half of baseball payroll.
Right.
You know exactly what's going to happen.
Sure. Because the best players.
Oh, we just got to get to the playoffs. Oh, we just got to get there. No. Nope.
Because the best players cost money in baseball. And that's something that the Dolans just refuse to spend.
Yeah. All right. I know we do this every year, and we're going to do it again, and we're getting ready. Jesus, like Chad, we are getting ready for pitchers and catchers.
Yeah. What? End of February, right? Middle of February?
At least Brad's on our side. At least Brad's here and he's on our side. Yeah, like beginning of February, pitchers and catchers, and then spring training, and we'll do our best to get our favorite Guardians people on here. I think Tom Hamilton will come back with us. I think Jim Rosenhaus always is down to come on. So we'll talk more Guardians as we get closer to spring training and all that. But this week happened, and the Dodgers signed the two best free agents out there. And it was like, oh my God.
Wow, crazy.
Oh my God. Can you believe that? Oh my God. Can you believe he did that? Oh,
yeah, breaking. The Dodgers have signed, like, oh, wow. Shocking. Like, for once, it would be awesome to see, like, oh, breaking. The Rockies have signed Roki Sasaki.
I don't give a shit if it's the Guardian. Like, oh my God, Roki Sasaki signed with the Pirates.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as Pirates.
Speaking of the Pirates,
enjoy Paul Skeens, Pittsburgh. Enjoy him because he's going to be pitching in L.A. before you know it.
Yeah, you're just waiting for him to be a Yankee.
Anyways, all right, I got to get out of here. Let's end on a positive note, and let's end with cheers of the week.
Yeah.
And so, Chad, why don't you give us your cheer of the week?
Did you get my TikTok I sent you?
Well, God, you sent me a lot of them. Which one?
Yeah, that's okay. Maybe we can do it next week. But I think I want to start a segment in the off season here. I think want to start a segment in like when in the lull of the seasons here, Mike, where we just like pick a Gary Busey TikTok video and we call it like, what's Gary Busey up to now? And just dissect his entire video. Like the one I sent you was he was talking about, he says, you know what I was thinking about today? You never want to get in a fight with a kangaroo because they'll paw you to death and stuff you in their pouch. Like,
you ever seen the size of their feet?
Yeah, the butter sausage. We should call it what's Gary Busey up to now. But I'm going to give my own cheers to the girl who ran the golf cart into the wall with Ryan Day and Will Howard into it. Yeah, listen, I am not sure what my favorite part about that video was. The fact that she ran it so hard into the wall that she rendered it useless, or the fact that she just ran out of there immediately and was like, sorry guys, and like ran away.
So, and everything's on camera at this point.
Yeah, cheers to you for having a moment. You were just lucky a camera didn't follow you, but cheers to you for having your natty moment, lady. Way to go.
I've got two cheers. Obviously, my first cheer is the Ohio State Buckeyes and Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and just the way that defense played. And, oh, God, Ohio State, unbelievable. But I'm going to give a little bit more of an emotional, a cool cheers. But the world lost Bob Uecker this week. And I've talked about this a little bit on the show. I always think it's weird when people are like, oh, no. And I'm like, the person was 90. Like, that's what they do. They die. Like, I always find it really weird when somebody dies when they're like 100 and people are like, oh, no, not that person. I'm like, that's what they're supposed to do. At that point.
That's what happens.
So instead,
the circle of life.
Instead of the, oh, no, I can't believe we lost Bob Uecker. Instead, what I think is, man, this earth was lucky enough to have Bob Uecker on the planet for like 90 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that dude, if you are somebody like me, if you're somebody like Chad, if you're somebody that has always dreamed to be in the broadcasting world, the podcasting world, whatever it is, Bob Uecker is an icon. He is a legend. Yeah. Bob Uecker is... he's a legend in multiple places, right? He was a legend in Milwaukee.
Right.
But he's also a legend in Cleveland for what he did in those major league franchises. And he had that like indelible connection to the city of Cleveland, even though he really had no connection to the city of Cleveland. Right. But because of those movies, he had this indelible connection to the city of Cleveland. Bob Uecker for his comedy, Bob Uecker for... when you listen to people talk about the stories they have of Bob Uecker, for everything that guy brought to the journalism world, the broadcasting world, the play-by-play world, and the sports world in general. I'm giving a huge cheers this week to Bob Uecker. What a life, and how lucky this earth was that we got to live 90 years here with Bob Uecker on it. I love it.
Even though it was fiction, even though it wasn't real, Mike.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't real.
Yeah.
Bob Uecker was the voice of my first taste of what it was like for Cleveland sports teams to win. It was. I mean, I was 4, 5, and 6 years old when the Browns went on their little mini run in the 80s.
Yep.
Right. So I remember it being good, but I never understood it. But when that movie came out, when Major League came out, and Bob Uecker go, the Indians win it. The Indians win it. Oh my God, the Indians win it. Yeah. I still get chills when I think about it to this day. It was my first taste of Cleveland, what it would be like in Cleveland if Cleveland sports won. And just God bless him, man, and just everything he brought to this earth, like you said.
I'm just going to play it.
Bell to the deep right field. Back goes Serrano. That baby is out of here. That looked like the Terminator, only slower. This is out-of-stater, or it could have been the hibernator. That baby is definitely going away for the winner. Whatever for Vaughn, it might be see you later. He's probably going to become a spectator.
The all-time greats.
Yeah,
Bobby
deep
Uecker.
to right field. Serrano's going back. He'll need a rocket up his ass to catch this one.
Take over, Monty. I'm in the bag.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bobby Uecker. Yeah, you couldn't cheers the guy enough. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. Again, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Look, I made a dent in the thing.
Yeah, good for you, dude.
The Ohio State Buckeyes are national champions. The Blue Jackets and the Cavs are still just playing great hockey/basketball. We ranted about baseball. We had a great time here on episode 247. Going into next week, I know we're going to be very hard-pressed to find some Ohio State guests, but we're going to try to do our best, and we'll try to get some more guests on here. But this has been a great time. Let's close it out with this. Our thank yous, our big thank you goes out to the OBR, the Orange and Brown Report. Make sure you get to the OBR.com. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you are liked and tuned in. Make sure you are tuned in on YouTube or Twitch or wherever you consume the OBR. The best Browns coverage and hanging out with us every single week happens on the OBR. Another big thank you goes out to all of you guys, whether you joined us live here tonight for the live stream on episode 247, or whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeart or wherever you are checking us out later. We appreciate you. We love you. And really, truly, our biggest thank you goes out to all of you that join us week in and week out. If you are new to us, we love you. We appreciate you coming in. If you are not new to us, get somebody that is new to us and bring them to us and come on and hang out with us on Garage Beers every week. That's going to do it for episode 247. For Joey Whalen, who wasn't here, but he'll be back next week at Garage Beers. Joe, for Chad Meyer over the east side of Cleveland at Garage Beers. Chad, I am Michael Keefe at Garage Beers. Mike, go follow the show at the Garage Beers on all the socials. And until next week, we'll see you later. And hey, OH,
IO,
OH,
IO.